What's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel where today I want to show you this. This is a 2022 BMW iX xDrive 50. And we are here today at the beautiful BMW of Tampa, just off Fowler Avenue. We want to say a big thank you for letting us take a look at this car today. This thing is absolutely fantastic. So a little bit of background on the iX. BMW isn't looking to replace their gas cars. They're just supplementing it with an all-new lineup of electric cars, starting with this. This is a production model, and this is what they consider a Heya car, which means BMW will actually send one of these to each of their dealerships, and they'll let them kind of show them off first. They're not allowed to sell this car, so we're not going to be driving it. We're not going to be doing too much as far as that goes today, but I definitely want to show you around it and show you what makes this car special. So where does this car fit for BMW? Well, it's not exactly like one of their gas cars. It's not going to be replacing any of the cars that they have in their existing lineup, which I really like. A lot of other companies, Subaru, are getting rid of some of their best cars and they're replacing them with electric cars. I don't really agree with that, not yet. But this one is an all-new lineup. So this one has a bespoke chassis, a new drivetrain. This has the most powerful battery that they've ever put in an electric BMW. And so everything about this one is new. So where does this fit in the electric luxury car segment? Well, this one directly competes with the Tesla Model X. And when you consider that the Tesla Model X will run you right around $100,000, this one sits comfortably at right around $90,000. So the actual MSRP of this car, the way it sits today, is $90,495. When you look at it that way, it's not a bad deal, especially for everything that you get on the inside of this car.
Now, before we go any further, I just want to go ahead and point out that the Tesla is going to beat this as far as performance. It has a little bit more range, it's a little bit faster to 60, and overall, it's just a little bit more powerful. But where this car competes with Tesla is as far as size and practicality. So it's going to be in the same vehicle class of a mid to full-size SUV as the Model X. As far as a performance competitor, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer until the M60 version of this car comes out in just a few months.
So today I kind of want to show you this car from my perspective, because I sold these cars for about 2 years, from 2018 to 2020, and they didn't have anything like this. Back then we only had the i3 and the i8. They didn't really compete very well with the Tesla Model X, with the Tesla Model Y. Basically any of the electric cars that were on the market, they weren't all the way there. Now this car is at that level and it's ready to be shown off, so that's what we're going to do today. So starting with the chassis, if you take a look at this, right when you open the door, you can see that this is a carbon core chassis. Now, if you'll remember, this is something that they started with the i8 and a little bit on the i3, but it's an all new bespoke chassis on this car designated specifically for this electric car. It's not something that shares any kind of DNA with the X5, the X7, any of those cars. Obviously, when you open the door and you see that, that is pretty awesome to see. So one of the first things I want to talk to you about is the wheel and tire setup on this car, because it actually makes a functional difference.
I wanted to go a little more in detail about the wheels because it gets a little confusing. On an electric car, the size of the wheel affects your overall vehicle range. So the standard 20-inch Aero style wheel gets the most range at 324 miles. While the 21-inch wheel shown on this car gives you 305, and the 22-inch wheel gives you 315 miles. Definitely something to think about when you're speccing out your iX.
Another styling feature about this is the door handle. So this is another first for BMW, where they don't have the physical door handles. This is one of the ones that you actually put your hand inside of. There's a little button, you can kind of feel it inside here, and so you just pull the button, then you open the door, and you actually notice that the door here is pillarless. So you don't have any kind of frame around the window, which is kind of a cleaner design, but all of these doors are automated, so whenever you close the door, then the window goes right back up again. It's a very clean design on this car. Another signature design on BMWs is the kidney grille. And it's kind of funny because this car doesn't really have a need for a grille, but it's a styling feature on these cars now. So, you know, BMW has always had the kidney grilles, and this one is no exception. And it actually has kind of a sweet little design with these triangles right here. Again, it's very, very big. It takes up most of the front of the car. But BMW said that there is a coating on this that's self-healing. And what that means is if there are rock chips, if there are scratches and stuff that comes up and hits this, then over time, as it heats up the material, as the sun or whatever heats up the material, it will kind of heal over those scratches and stuff. But that's another really cool piece of technology on this car that really shows their attention to detail and that they really care about putting out an awesome product. Another thing that's unique to the BMW electric cars is the emblem. See, with these emblems, they don't just do the regular BMW. They actually put a little blue ring around it just to kind of show you that this is a little bit different than their typical car. Another thing to look at on these new BMWs is their new headlight design. On the iX, this has a couple different options for headlights. You can get the Icon adaptive LEDs or the you know, the super high performance lights. This one's the standard light. So you can kind of see this is what you get set up with, which on these new BMWs, the standard lights are pretty awesome. You have these accent lights right here that light up as daytime running lights, and then you have the actual headlights and high beams. Very clean design overall and very sharp looking. It kind of finishes off the car pretty well. All right, so as far as the back end of the car goes, the first thing that we're gonna go ahead and take a look at is the lighting setup. Now you have these very, very thin lights right here, but those aren't the only lights. So if we go ahead and open up the trunk, then we can see that you actually have some lights in here as well. And those are for if you're on the side of the road, if anything happens, if you have the trunk open, then these lights are also on. So it's kind of a cool attention to detail. I think that's probably something that they have to do as far as highway safety standards and everything, because being that they're on the tailgate, you have to have a set of lights here. So that's a kind of a cool little feature. But even from here, you can kind of see that carbon core chassis. Everywhere you look on this car, whenever you open the doors, it's carbon. While we have this trunk open, we can go ahead and see the storage space. We have quite a bit of equipment that we travel around with, so we have a lot of it in here right now, but you can kind of see that you have a lot of storage space in this car. It's very practical. It's about the same size as the X5, I would probably say. But yeah, I mean, it's nice. I mean, if you need to throw anything back here, it's not as big as some other cars, but I mean, it's plenty to throw back there for groceries and stuff like that. So yeah, very practical. Again, this design is incredibly clean, and you have the BMW emblem on the outside with a little blue ring around the outside. And they worked in the camera right here, where typically the cameras used to be right above the license plate under this piece of fascia right here. So they're working it into the emblem now. Something a little bit different. It's kind of a little bit of a change up. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop inside this thing and see what it looks like on the inside. So first impressions, when we open up the door, what do we see? You'll notice that as far as the doors go, you have a button right here for the door handle. There's not a physical latch right here, or there's not a physical handle that you use to open up the door. You actually have this little button. You might be asking, well, what happens if the battery dies? Well, they thought of that because there is a little latch right here on the bottom that you can see opens up the door in the case of, you know, if the battery dies. So it makes you wonder how many people are going to use this latch instead of using the button. I don't know. It's kind of a stupid thought, but I thought of it. Another thing that you'll notice, they kind of took a little bit of a tip from Mercedes here because they put the seat controls right here on the door. There is an upgrade that you can actually do these in the crystal. All right, so let's take a look at the inside of this car. Man, there's a lot to go over, from the seats to the fit and finish of everything. Let's start with materials, because this is where BMW really takes it over the top. I talked to one of my friends who's a product specialist a couple days ago, and he told me that a lot of the materials in this car, besides, I don't think the Sensitech, but some of the materials in this car are made out of recycled fish nets. Save the turtles, save the ocean. Awesome, I love that. I don't see why we don't do that more often. And not just in electric cars, but like every car, because I don't notice a difference in the way that this car is made. But first impressions, I love this steering wheel setup. This is something that, if you'll remember, was kind of the same style as what they had in the i3. They only have the 2-spoke steering wheel right here. It's not the traditional BMW 3-spoke, and it has the little BMW emblem in the middle with the blue. Awesome feel to the steering wheel. I mean, it feels really good in your hands. It has this hexagonal shape, so it's like a 6-sided steering wheel, but it looks really cool in this one. iDrive display is really, really nice. So you have this huge screen, and it is a touchscreen as well, so very high quality display. This one's running iDrive 8, which is an all new version. This is gonna be their new iDrive system for all of their new cars, not just their electric cars. And it's controlled with this controller. This is something that I've always loved about BMW, is the iDrive system. So they have this little controller, and it makes it so easy to navigate the screen. Obviously you can touch it and stuff if you want to, but whenever you're in traffic and you're driving, it's nice to be able to kind of rest your hand right here and be looking at the road and know that you're actually doing something. Because for me, it's really annoying when you're driving and you have to be paying attention to this. It takes your eyes off the road, and you have to like kind of make sure that you're pressing the right thing. Whereas with this one, it doesn't require all of your attention, which is really, really nice. It's a great feature. One of the things I'm not super crazy about is the climate menu. So instead of having all of your climate controls right here, like you usually do, they left this area wide open because there's no transmission tunnel. So all of this space right here is opened up. So there's no buttons right here on the climate menu, which is fine. I mean, you have all of them right here in the middle. As far as drive controls, you have this little selector right here. You don't need a big gear shifter. Obviously, there's no transmission here. There's nothing that, I mean, we're not kidding anybody anymore. This is an electronic shifter. So They made it very small. It doesn't take up a lot of room. It's not the centerpiece of this. You also have a volume controller. On some of these cars, they've kind of put all the volume controls and everything right here, and that gets really annoying after a while. So having a physical button that you can actually manipulate while you're driving and you can feel a physical touch, that's important. BMW, please do not get rid of your buttons. I love buttons. Everybody else loves buttons. Screens get annoying. As far as the interior options, this is going to be Sensitech, and this is BMW's new Sensitech. You'll notice in the last video with the M240 that I accidentally called the Sensitech leather. And it's because it was perforated. And it's a lot better quality. The Sensitech in the older BMWs, whenever I used to work there in 2018 through 20, wasn't the best. It was close, but you could tell the difference between Sensitech and leather. In these new cars, it's very hard to tell the difference. And they've done a really good job. You don't really miss the leather in this car.
It's worth mentioning that besides the 3 Sensitech options, BMW offers you 2 real leather options, as well as a new material they call stone gray microfiber wool, a futuristic 2-tone alternative, just in case you find the leather options a little too normal.
But this is the black Sensitech. It's an all-new design specifically for this car. Now, I was kind of skeptical about the sunroof whenever I first saw it because it doesn't have a physical shade. It doesn't actually roll a shade forward, which is kind of different. And I wondered how well that worked because it just kind of makes a haze over the glass. But actually, in this application, it blocks out the sun entirely. Obviously, it's a little bit light, but it's not like lighting up a piece of paper where it's still super bright. This actually does a really good job of dimming it, and it's cool design. It's something that they didn't have to do. They could have easily just thrown a shade in there. But again, BMW is paying attention to detail. So enough about the front seats. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back seats. There's a good amount of space back here. I am 5'10" and a half, but I mean, there's plenty of legroom. The seats in the front are not pushed all the way forward to compensate for legroom or anything. It's still comfortable for me to sit up in the front, but in the back, there's plenty of space. This is 100% comparable to the X5. If anything, I'd say this is a little bit more spacious, actually. You have plenty of space back here. As far as comfortability, this is awesome. Again, it doesn't feel any different because you're driving an electric car, and I don't think you should be sacrificing any kind of practicality for driving an electric car. And again, with BMW, there's no compromises. There's no difference. So some of the stuff that I see in the back, they have this little door right here that you can add accessories, and they sell accessories for this. Like if you want to have a clothes hanger or something else, something to hold a tablet for your kids, they have that little door that opens. They also have 2 lightning cable chargers right here that you can plug into the back of the seat. And they also have AC controls for the people in the back. If you want them to be able to manipulate their own AC controls, they can do that right here. But overall, awesome. One of the last things that I want to show you on this is the key. This key is quite a bit different, you'll see, from a normal BMW. This has the lock button on the front, and it has the other buttons on the side. You have alarm, trunk, and the unlock button. It's a lot different than a typical BMW key. A normal BMW key looks a lot different than this, but again, they want you to know that this is not a typical BMW. This is a all-new BMW. They've done a fantastic job of producing an all-new car for not too high of a price point. Obviously, something that costs $90,000 is not your typical kind of car. But keep in mind, this is a luxury car. This is in the luxury segment. This competes directly with Tesla, which again, Tesla is a $100,000 car. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like this car? Do you hate it? Personally, I think it's awesome. BMW, you did a great job.
Once again, I want to say a huge thank you to my friend Magic, who's the manager of Tampa BMW, and his wife Noor for helping us out as far as hooking us up with this car today. Thank you guys, and thank you to Morgan Auto Group.
Thank you guys again for watching. We'll see you next time.